The Apex Solutions call center buzzed with 1,000 frantic voices. Aisha, headset on, offered serene reassurance to a frustrated caller. Her manager, Brad, stalked past, his glare catching her screen. Another below-quota flag. Long before the city stirred, Aisha rose. Her small apartment, though sparse, was a sanctuary of order. She moved with quiet determination, brewing herbal tea, the aroma, a gentle prelude to the day's coming chaos. Before donning her uniform, she reviewed dog-eared notes on empathy and active listening. These weren't just job tips. They were her anchors, a personal code against the impersonal world awaiting her. She believed genuine connection, even through a phone line, was a form of dignity. Mid-morning, the call center became a cacophony of complaints and demands. Brad's voice cut through the drone, sharp and public. "Aisha, still on that one? We're talking efficiency here, not therapy sessions. Your metrics are bleeding." He stood over her, hands on hips, a sneer playing on his lips. Aisha's smile tightened, a mask against the humiliation, as she calmly reassured her customer. Around them, colleagues hunched lower, their eyes fixed on their screens, silently acknowledging the manager's cruel sport. Later, Aisha sought out HR, stepping into the sterile office. Brenda, the HR representative, sat behind a fortress of a desk, her gaze as cold as the fluorescent lights. Aisha timidly explained Brad's behavior, the impossible quotas. Brenda leaned back, a patronizing smile. "Aisha, we appreciate your feedback, but Brad's management style aligns with our high-performance culture. Your recent performance issues suggest you need to adapt, not question policy." Aisha's shoulders slumped, the corporate jargon a thicker wall than any she could scale. The break room offered little respite. Aisha picked at her stale sandwich, overhearing the hushed complaints. "Brad's on a rampage again," someone whispered. "My AHT, average handle time, is through the roof." Another, a weary veteran, advised, "Just keep your head down, Aisha. It's not worth the target on your back." Their words were a collective sigh of resignation, a shared fear too potent to challenge. Aisha understood. They were all trapped in Brad's shadow. In his cluttered, cramped office, Brad reviewed performance reports, a red pen scrawling through names. Aisha's name was circled, then aggressively underlined. He cackled to himself, a low, guttural sound. Another one for disciplinary action. He believed his management style was effective, a necessary evil to keep subordinates in line. He envisioned himself a corporate titan, oblivious to the fact that his reign of terror was built on the backs of the exploited, and that unseen eyes were about to challenge his self-proclaimed genius. As the shift concluded, Aisha packed her bag, her movements slow, visibly drained. Brad, lounging by the exit, smirked. "Leaving already, Aisha?" "Thought you'd stay and catch up on that lack of hustle. Some people just don't get it." He laughed, a dismissive sound. Aisha simply nodded, her composure unwavering, though inside, a quiet weariness settled deep within her bones. She walked out, leaving the toxic air behind, unaware that a single, anonymous call was about to unravel everything. On the bus ride home, city lights blurred against the dark window. Aisha replayed the day's unfairness, the sting of Brad's words. Yet, a small ember of pride glowed. She remembered a particularly difficult customer she had patiently guided to a resolution, their voice softening with gratitude. It was for moments like that, for the genuine human connection, that she endured. Despite Apex Solutions' pressure, her belief in genuine service remained an unyielding moral compass. Mr. Thorne leaned back in his leather chair, the glow of his monitor illuminating the expensive mahogany of his home office. Quarterly reports lay open, a stark contradiction staring him down. Customer satisfaction scores were dipping, a slow, concerning slide, yet the internal efficiency metrics for his company's call centers, particularly Apex Solutions, were boasting record highs. How could both be true? He ran a hand over his meticulously trimmed beard. This wasn't just a dip in numbers, it was a symptom, a whisper of something rotten beneath the surface. True integrity, he believed, wasn't about the numbers you reported, but the truth you uncovered. He picked up his sleek phone, a glint of resolve in his eyes. Time to call his own company. Anonymously. The next morning, the Apex Solutions call center buzzed with its usual manufactured cheer. Aisha, headphones on, her voice a calm balm amidst the digital din, navigated a customer's unusually complex billing query. She listened, truly listened, her fingers flying across the keyboard, piecing together a solution that went beyond the basic script. On the other end of the line, Mr. Thorne, posing as a frustrated client, noted her patience, her meticulousness. Her approach was a stark contrast to the rushed, impersonal service he'd received on previous test calls. Brad, Aisha's manager, patrolled the aisles, his eyes sharp, a predator looking for weakness. He paused behind Aisha's desk, his shadow falling over her screen, a silent clock ticking against her measured calm. Aisha, however, remained serene, her focus unbroken. Aisha was explaining a nuanced policy adjustment to Mr. Thorne, her tone reassuring, when Brad's voice cut through her headset, an unwelcome intrusion. "Agent Carter, wrap it up. You're pushing 5 minutes on that call. Are you selling them a house?" His voice was loud, laced with a familiar sneer, clearly audible to Mr. Thorne. Aisha flinched, her composure momentarily fracturing. "I apologize for the interruption, sir," she quickly said, her voice strained. "Please allow me just a moment more." She tried to accelerate her explanation, her politeness now tinged with visible stress, rushing through the solution she had so carefully constructed. Mr. Thorne remained silent on the line, but his grip tightened on his phone. The manager's crass intervention was a glaring red flag. Mr. Thorne disconnected the call a moment later, the polite, "Thank you," from Aisha still echoing in his ear. He felt a disturbance, a knot of unease. Brad's interruption had been deliberate, designed to pressure, to humiliate. Aisha's performance, though exemplary, was clearly being stifled by a toxic environment. He tapped his pen against a crisp notepad, quickly jotting down Aisha's agent ID number, then Brad's name, which he'd gleaned from a quick search of the employee directory. The efficiency metrics he'd seen in the reports now felt hollow, a smokescreen. They weren't measuring quality of service, but the speed of dismissal. Something was profoundly wrong at Apex Solutions, and he was determined to find out what. Over the next several days, Mr. Thorne continued his covert investigation. He placed more anonymous calls, sometimes from his office, sometimes from a burner phone in his car, always requesting to speak with Aisha, or waiting patiently until her cue came up. Each time, he observed the same pattern. Aisha's calm professionalism, her empathetic approach, and Brad's consistent, targeted interference. "Agent Carter, still on that one?" "We've got calls backing up," Brad would bark. Or, "Are you sure you explained that clearly enough, or are you just wasting time?" Other agents, he noticed, were allowed to slack, to chat, to take quick breaks. But whenever Aisha appeared to take a moment longer, Brad was there, a shadow of disdain. It was a systematic effort to undermine her. In his cluttered office, Brad held court during a weekly managers' meeting. He leaned back, a smug expression on his face, as he projected Aisha's performance graph onto a screen. "See this here?" He gestured with a laser pointer. "Agent Carter." Too much. Empathy, not enough. Efficiency. She's always over-empathizing, taking 5 minutes where 2 would do. A ripple of uncomfortable laughter went through the room. "She thinks this is a therapy session, not a call center. Bless her heart, but politeness doesn't pay the bills. We need to cut out the dead weight, the ones who can't hack it." He chuckled, a harsh, dismissive sound, unaware that a low-quality recording of his mockery was being captured by an anonymous source linked to Mr. Thorne's ongoing inquiry. Later that night, Mr. Thorne sat in his car, parked discreetly across from the illuminated Apex Solutions building. The call center glowed, a sterile monument to forced productivity. He reviewed the mental notes, the brief audio snippets, the agent IDs. Brad's actions were not just isolated incidents. They were a deliberate, calculated campaign. The declining customer satisfaction was directly linked to this toxic management style, driven by a manager who valued cruelty over competence and whose metrics were clearly fabricated. He pulled out his phone, bypassing his usual contacts. This was beyond HR. This was a systemic rot that needed to be surgically removed. He dialed a number, his voice low, firm. "Get me Johnson. Tell him it's urgent. We have an internal investigation to launch immediately." The first phase was complete. The observer was about to become the actor. Mr. Thorne's secure, remote office hummed with the quiet efficiency of cutting-edge technology. It was early morning, but his mind was already fully engaged. On his dual screens, complex data visualizations shifted and reformed. A video call window showed his trusted investigator, a sharp-eyed woman named Lena. "Lena," Mr. Thorne began, his voice calm but firm. "I need you to pull everything on Brad Jenkins and his team at Apex Solutions. Every performance metric, every customer feedback report, every internal communication." His gaze sharpened. "And pay particular attention to Aisha Carter's records. Flag anything that seems unusual. Discretion is paramount. We don't want to alert anyone just yet." Lena nodded, her expression resolute. "Understood, Mr. Thorne. I'll focus on patterns. Things that don't quite align." He leaned back slightly, a determined glint in his eyes. "Precisely. The truth often hides in plain sight, if you know how to look." Back at the bustling Apex Solutions call center, Aisha sat at her desk, the relentless digital queue feeding her calls. Brad, ever watchful, had assigned her an impossible number of inbound queries that morning, but Aisha refused to let the pressure compromise her service. A customer on the line was confused about a complex billing issue. Instead of rushing, Aisha patiently walked them through each step, her voice a soothing balm amidst the cacophony. Brad strutted by, grunting about call handle time and efficiency, but Aisha merely nodded, a serene mask firmly in place. Later, she found a small shortcut in the system, a way to pull up account histories a few seconds faster, shaving precious moments without sacrificing the quality of her interaction. It was a quiet act of defiance, a subtle pushback against the tyranny of the clock. Miles away, deep into the night, Lena sat hunched over her glowing screens in her own secure office. Coffee mug steaming beside her, she sifted through reams of data. Brad Jenkins' team reports boasted impressive efficiency numbers, yet the corresponding customer satisfaction scores for the same period showed a perplexing dip. Lena cross-referenced the data, her fingers flying across the keyboard. Then she found it, a glaring discrepancy. Aisha Carter's poor performance metrics, those Brad consistently cited, were disproportionately weighted. They seemed to be pulling down the team's overall satisfaction ratings, despite individual customer comments about Aisha often being positive. Inflated team numbers, deflated individual scores. Lena murmured to herself, a cold realization dawning. This isn't just bad management, this is deliberate. At a secluded coffee shop a few blocks from Apex Solutions, Brad leaned across the table, his voice a low, conspiratorial whisper. Opposite him, Brenda from HR stirred her latte, a smug look on her face. "Aisha's pushing back," Brad muttered. "Taking too long on calls, trying to be a hero. It's affecting my numbers." Brenda chuckled softly. "Don't worry, Brad. We'll manage her complaints, just keep spinning those numbers. We'll make sure her performance reviews reflect areas for improvement." Brad's sneer returned. "And the others who keep whining. About the quotas? The pressure?" Brenda waved a dismissive hand. "Standard employee discontent. We'll cite company policy, remind them of their at-will employment. Your loyalty to the company is well noted, Brad. We'll always have your back." Their shared smirk spoke volumes of their twisted alliance, a silent agreement to perpetuate the toxic system. The video call connected Lena to Mr. Thorne. "Sir, I have something you need to see." Lena's voice was grave as she shared her screen. It showed a trail of HR complaints, all directed at Brad, all mysteriously closed without action. Then came the damning evidence. Internal emails from Brenda to Brad, dismissing concerns, advising him on how to reframe negative feedback, and even subtly suggesting ways to make certain employees' performance appear worse. Mr. Thorne's jaw tightened. He saw the pattern clearly now. A manager's abuse unchecked, enabled by the very department meant to protect employees. The efficiency metrics were a smokescreen for a rotten core, a deliberate cover-up designed to protect a favored tyrant. His hand clenched into a fist. This wasn't just a management issue, this was systemic corruption. The day had worn Aisha thin, but Brad seemed energized by her exhaustion. He stood over her desk, his voice cutting through the call center chatter like a whip. Aisha, a word. His tone was deceptively casual, but his eyes held a predatory glint. Your performance is still, shall we say, underperforming. Too polite, too slow. Consider this your final warning. He leaned closer, savoring her discomfort. One more missed quota. One more customer who takes too much time, and your job is officially on the line. Understand? He didn't wait for an answer, just a smug smirk as he walked away, leaving Aisha to absorb the public threat. Her cheeks burned, but her gaze remained steady. She understood. He enjoyed this. On the bus ride home, the city lights blurred outside the window, mirroring the chaos in Aisha's mind. Brad's threat echoed. Final warning. Quitting felt like a tempting escape, a way to end the constant pressure. But then she remembered Mrs. Rodriguez, the elderly woman she'd helped earlier, patiently navigating a complex technical issue until the customer's relief had been palpable. That was why she did this, not for Brad, not for Apex Solutions' arbitrary numbers, but for the genuine human connection, the satisfaction of making someone's day a little easier. She wouldn't let Brad break her. Her politeness wasn't a weakness. It was her shield, her strength. She would continue, for herself, for her values, and for every customer who deserved genuine service. Late that night, Mr. Thorne sat in his home office. The collected evidence spread before him. Lena's reports, customer feedback, HR logs, Brad's manipulated metrics. The picture was complete, damning, and profoundly disturbing. A quiet dismissal of Brad wouldn't suffice. It would merely sweep the rot under the rug, allowing the toxic culture to fester. No, this required more. A public example, not just for Brad, but for Brenda, for HR, and for the entire company culture that had allowed this to happen. He looked at the clock, then at a digital image of the Apex Solutions logo on his screen, a determined glint in his eye. The time for observation was over. The time for reckoning was at hand. The investigator's office was a fortress of data, screens glowing with a mosaic of spreadsheets and communication logs. His fingers, nimble and precise, scrolled through encrypted messages, sifting through the digital detritus of Apex Solutions. Then, a flicker of recognition, a pattern emerging from the noise. He found them, a series of emails and chat logs exchanged between Brad and Brenda. The language was coded, but the intent was clear, explicitly detailing how to adjust Aisha's performance reviews, how to reclassify positive customer feedback as neutral, and how to manage the flood of complaints from other reps about Brad's own abusive behavior. It was incontrovertible proof of a calculated conspiracy. His grave expression hardened. This wasn't just mismanagement, it was deliberate sabotage. He picked up his secure line, Mr. Thorne's direct number already programmed. The smoking gun had been found. In his secure, remote office, Mr. Thorne absorbed the investigator's summary. His eyes, usually cool and analytical, now held a glint of indignation. The report laid bare the meticulously fabricated case against Aisha. Side-by-side comparisons showed glowing customer testimonials, genuine expressions of gratitude for Aisha's patience and problem-solving, directly beside Brad's official warnings citing excessive call times or lack of efficiency. It was a stark, sickening contrast. Every piece of positive feedback had been ignored, buried, or twisted into a negative. The moral outrage was palpable. Brad hadn't just been cruel. He had systematically dismantled Aisha's record, eroding her career with malicious intent, all while Brenda, the HR representative, had signed off on the deceit. The depth of the betrayal solidified Mr. Thorne's resolve. This wasn't just about cleaning house. It was about serving justice. Aisha sat at a small, sterile table in a cramped meeting room, the air thick with unspoken accusation. Brad leaned back in his chair, a predatory smirk playing on his lips, while Brenda, HR's stony facade firmly in place, held a stack of papers. Aisha, Brenda began, her voice devoid of warmth. Your performance metrics have been consistently below expectations. Despite repeated warnings, your empathetic approach continues to compromise our efficiency targets. Brad nodded. Frankly, your excessive politeness has become a liability. It's affecting team morale. Aisha, though her heart hammered against her ribs, met their gazes with unwavering composure. "My metrics reflect time spent resolving complex issues, not avoiding them," she stated, her voice calm but firm. "My customers appreciate thoroughness, not rushed calls." Brad scoffed. "Excuses. We're left with no choice. This is your final warning, Aisha. One more incident, and we'll have to consider termination." He savored the words, confident in his victory. Aisha's fate hung by a thread. The grand lobby of Apex Solutions, usually a blur of hurried employees, seemed to hold its breath. Mr. Thorne entered, no longer disguised in casual attire. He wore a crisp suit that spoke of undeniable authority, his shoulders squared, his gaze stern. He bypassed the surprised security guard with a brief, dismissive wave of his hand, his eyes fixed on the entrance to the call center floor. His presence cut through the sterile air, a palpable shift in the building's energy. He moved with a quiet, powerful stride, each step signaling the impending end of Brad's unchecked reign. The clock on the lobby wall ticked, marking the final moments of Brad and Brenda's assumed impunity. He was here, and the storm was about to break. Inside the disciplinary meeting room, Brad delivered his final, arrogant blow. "So, Aisha," he sneered, pushing a termination form across the table, "it seems your excessive politeness has finally caught up with you. We simply can't afford such inefficiencies. Consider this your official notice." Brenda offered a smug smile, believing their carefully constructed web of lies had held. She adjusted her glasses, the picture of corporate indifference. Aisha, though her spirit ached, refused to break. She sat tall, her expression composed, maintaining her quiet dignity even in this moment of perceived defeat. Brad's triumphant smirk broadened, savoring the crushing blow he believed he had just delivered. He was utterly unaware that the door handle was now slowly, irrevocably turning. The door to the meeting room swung open with a soft, deliberate click. Every head snapped towards the sound. Brad's triumphant smirk froze, then dissolved into a look of utter bewilderment. Brenda's smug smile vanished, replaced by a pale mask of confusion. Standing in the doorway, framed by the bustling call center beyond, was Mr. Thorne. His presence alone was enough to instantly silence the room, their words dying in their throats. His gaze swept over Brad and Brenda, then settled, for a brief, reassuring moment, on Aisha. A subtle, almost imperceptible nod passed between them. Aisha's eyes, wide with shock, saw not a stranger, but the calm, observant customer from her phone calls. The air crackled with a sudden, overwhelming shift in power. Brad was the first to regain some semblance of composure, though his face remained drained of color. "Excuse me," he stammered, his voice laced with forced bravado. "Who are you? This is a private disciplinary meeting. You need to leave immediately." Brenda, still visibly shaken, echoed his sentiment. "Yes, this is highly inappropriate. Security will be called." Mr. Thorne didn't move. He didn't speak. He simply stood there, an immovable force, his calm, unsettling silence filling the room. His eyes, sharp and unwavering, held Brad's gaze, a quiet power radiating from him that contradicted Brad's bluster. Brad, oblivious to the man's true identity, gestured dismissively towards the door, his arrogance still blinding him to the immense, terrifying truth about to be unveiled. Brad stood, hands on hips, a sneer already forming on his face. "Look, pal, you're clearly confused. This is a private meeting. Now, either you tell us what you want, or security will escort you out." Brenda nodded, a smug look of agreement on her face. Aisha watched, her heart sinking, preparing for yet another humiliation. Mr. Thorne didn't move. His gaze, once merely observing, now burned with an unwavering authority. "I don't think I'll be leaving, Brad," he stated, his voice calm, cutting through the manager's bluster like a diamond on glass. "I own this company." The words hung in the air, a sudden, deafening silence falling over the room. Brad's face drained of all color, his jaw going slack. Brenda's eyes widened, her smug smile vanishing, replaced by pure terror. Aisha gasped, a small, involuntary sound. The air crackled with the instantaneous shift in power. Mr. Thorne wasted no time. From beneath his arm, he produced a slim, dark folder, placing it deliberately on the table. Pages, meticulously organized, spilled out. Performance reports, email printouts, chat logs, a damning chronicle of deceit. Brad. Mr. Thorne began, his voice devoid of emotion. For months you have systematically manipulated metrics, fabricated performance issues, and fostered a toxic environment. Your targeting of Aisha specifically has been documented. Every warning you issued, every customer compliment you reclassified as neutral or negative, it's all here. He tapped a specific page. And Brenda, his gaze shifted to the HR rep, your complicity in covering up these abuses, dismissing complaints, and colluding to protect Brad is equally evident. These chat logs, he pointed to another set of printouts, detail your joint efforts to manage Aisha's problematic politeness. Brad stammered, his denials weak and frantic. Brenda's eyes darted between the documents, and Mr. Thorne, her composure utterly shattered. Mr. Thorne wasn't finished. With a decisive movement, he strode to the meeting room door and pulled it open. The hushed murmurs of the gathered call center staff, drawn by the commotion, instantly fell silent. Their eyes, wide with curiosity and apprehension, now focused on the scene unfolding. Attention, everyone. Mr. Thorne's voice resonated with a quiet power that commanded immediate respect. I am Mr. Thorne, CEO of Apex Solutions. A collective gasp rippled through the onlookers. And I regret to inform you that Brad and Brenda are no longer employees of this company. Effective immediately, they are terminated for gross misconduct, unethical practices, and the deliberate creation of a hostile work environment. Brad's face crumpled in humiliated disbelief. Brenda stared blankly, her world collapsing around her. For the staff, who had endured so much, a wave of profound relief washed over them, their whispers now a mixture of shock and quiet triumph. Before Brad or Brenda could compose themselves, 2 uniformed security officers entered the room, their presence alone silencing any potential protests. Escort them out, Mr. Thorne instructed, his voice firm. Brad sputtered, You can't do this. I have rights. Brenda, eyes wide with panic, tried to appeal. Mr. Thorne, please, it was a misunderstanding. But their pleas fell on deaf ears. The officers moved with efficient purpose, snapping cuffs around Brad's wrists first, then Brenda's. The walk through the call center floor was a spectacle. Brad, head bowed in shame, Brenda, weeping openly, were led past the rows of desks they once lorded over. Staff watched in silent, grim satisfaction. Some exchanged knowing glances. A quiet acknowledgement of justice finally served. The clink of the security guards, walkie-talkies, punctuated their ignominious exit. With Brad and Brenda gone, the meeting room felt strangely empty. Mr. Thorne turned to Aisha, his stern expression softening as he met her gaze. Aisha, he said, his voice imbued with genuine empathy, you have shown remarkable resilience and integrity in the face of unimaginable pressure. Your commitment to genuine customer service, even when it puts you at odds with an abusive system, is precisely the kind of dedication Apex Solutions needs. He paused, a look of regret crossing his features. I am truly sorry for the environment you were forced to endure. No employee should ever be subjected to such cruelty, especially not when they embody the very values we claim to uphold. Aisha's lips trembled, tears welling in her eyes. The weight of months of oppression, of silent suffering, began to lift, replaced by an overwhelming sense of validation. Mr. Thorne continued, his tone shifting to one of decisive purpose. Aisha, you represent the true heart of this company. Your politeness is not a weakness. It is a profound strength. That is why, effective immediately, I am offering you the position of customer experience lead. Aisha blinked, the shock of the past few minutes giving way to stunned awe. Your primary task will be to redesign our training programs and reshape our call center culture, ensuring that empathy and genuine service become our paramount metrics, not just empty buzzwords. Aisha, overwhelmed by the sudden turn of events, could only nod, a choked, "Thank you, Mr. Thorne," escaping her lips. As she straightened her shoulders, a newfound confidence settled over her, the weight of her struggles now transformed into the power of her purpose. Later that day, Aisha found herself in a small, private office, a clean whiteboard awaiting her ideas. It felt surreal, a stark contrast to the open-plan chaos she'd endured for so long. She traced a finger over the smooth surface, a quiet smile forming. No more impossible quotas. No more mocking. Just a blank canvas for a new beginning. She picked up a marker, her mind already buzzing with possibilities. Empathy, active listening, empowerment. The words flowed, a vision for a call center where genuine human connection mattered more than any number. The quiet strength she'd always possessed now had a platform. Mr. Thorne, now settled into his newly arranged office at Apex Solutions, watched Aisha present her initial ideas. Pride swelled within him. "This is excellent, Aisha," he affirmed, reviewing her notes. "This isn't just about fixing a problem. It's about fundamentally changing who we are. It's about building a culture where our employees feel valued and empowered, so they can, in turn, truly value and empower our customers." He leaned forward, a shared vision in his eyes. "This is just the beginning. You are leading the way, Aisha, and together we will ensure that Apex Solutions becomes a beacon of ethical leadership and genuine service." They shook hands, a silent pact sealing the promise of a transformed future. Weeks had passed since the seismic shift at Apex Solutions. The stale, oppressive air that once hung heavy over the call center had lifted, replaced by a noticeable lightness. Aisha, now moving with purpose through the rows of desks, observed the change. No longer were heads bowed in silent misery. Chatter, quiet and respectful, buzzed between agents. Smiles, genuine and unforced, appeared on faces that once wore masks of stress. The low hum of keyboards and the soft murmur of conversation spoke of engagement, not fear. A sense of relief, palpable and profound, infused the very atmosphere. The sunlight streaming through the large windows seemed to cast a brighter glow on every workstation, illuminating a renewed sense of purpose. Aisha's vision for a humane call center was already taking root. In the newly redesigned training room, a space now filled with natural light and ergonomic chairs, she stood before a group of new hires and a few existing staff, her demeanor calm but resolute. The whiteboard behind her was filled not with aggressive quotas, but with key words like empathy, active listening, and genuine solution. She spoke with a quiet authority, her voice clear as she guided them through scenarios, emphasizing the human connection. "It's not about the clock," she explained. "It's about the person on the other end. Hear them, truly hear them." Staff members, once cynical, leaned forward, absorbing her words. They responded positively, inspired by her approach, seeing in her the kind of leader they had always deserved. The ripple effect of Mr. Thorne's intervention extended far beyond Apex Solutions. One evening, Aisha watched a local news report on the break room television. The headline flashed across the screen: HR executive implicated in corporate cover-up scandal. The report detailed Brenda's involvement not just in Apex's internal issues, but in a wider web of unethical practices across several subsidiaries. Mr. Thorne appeared on screen, his voice calm and firm, reaffirming the company's new, unwavering commitment to transparency and ethical leadership. Brenda's mugshot, stark and unforgiving, filled the screen, a chilling reminder that injustice, once exposed, would not be contained. Justice, it seemed, was a patient but relentless force, finding every guilty party. Meanwhile, Brad's reign of terror had ended in a spectacular fall from grace. He was now a shadow of his former arrogant self, reduced to flipping burgers at a greasy fast food joint on the outskirts of town. Late one night, a customer, red-faced and irate, yelled at him for a wrong order. "You call this service? Get it right, pal." Brad, in a stained uniform, head bowed, mumbled a string of apologies. The sneer that had once been permanently etched on his face was gone, replaced by a tired, defeated expression. The man who had once reveled in the humiliation of others now tasted the bitter irony of his own diminished existence, a stark contrast to the power he once wielded. In Mr. Thorne's newly arranged office at Apex Solutions, the true metrics of success were now on display. He and Aisha sat side by side, poring over digital reports. The screens glowed with vibrant green graphs, showing upward trends not just in customer satisfaction, but in employee morale and retention. The old, numerical quotas had been replaced by qualitative assessments, prioritizing the quality of interaction and the resolution of complex issues over raw call volume. This, Mr. Thorne stated, gesturing to a chart indicating a significant drop in employee grievances, this is what true efficiency looks like. It's not about speed. It's about heart. Aisha nodded, a quiet pride in her eyes. Their shared vision was transforming the company from the inside out. Aisha's quiet strength had become her legacy. In her own small, private office, a new hire sat across from her, listening intently. Aisha, now the customer experience lead, mentored with the same gentle patience she once applied to difficult customers. The most powerful tool you have, she explained, is your genuine desire to help. That politeness, that empathy, it's not a weakness, it's our greatest strength. The new hire, initially intimidated by the role, listened with respectful attention, inspired by Aisha's calm confidence. Her philosophy, once mocked, was now the gold standard, woven into the very fabric of the call center's new, humane culture. Aisha's journey from overlooked victim to respected leader was complete, her impact profound and lasting. The Apex Solutions call center, once a crucible of stress and injustice, now hummed with a different energy. It was bustling, yes, but harmoniously so. The quiet strength of Aisha, observed and championed by Mr. Thorne, had transformed it into a place where genuine human connection thrived. This story proves that truth, like a persistent caller, always finds a way to be heard. Justice, though sometimes delayed, always finds the guilty. And the quiet resilience of good people, who refuse to compromise their values even in the face of relentless pressure, will ultimately prevail. Their intellect, their empathy, and their unwavering commitment to what is right are not weaknesses, but the most powerful weapons against discrimination and deceit. The Apex Solutions logo, once a symbol of corporate indifference, now shone with the promise of a truly ethical future.